Initially, when first beginning as a barrister, I think the most challenging aspect was trying to run a business and also doing the work at the same time. So, and for instance, sometimes you would get work which came in very last minute, and that means you've received, a file to be in court the next day on the evening before. And I guess managing how to deal with that in the best and most appropriate way with the limited time that you have. I think more and more as you become more experienced, those sorts of cases you don't take on as often, but at least initially it's one of the things that tends to happen to junior barristers. And in terms of that stress, on top of all of that, being in court, not being as familiar with all the practices or procedures of court, or how a particular area or section of the court runs its matters, you're also running your own practice as well. And that is, gauging your budget, your expenses, returning your business activity statements quarterly, building your practice and your reputation and meeting new solicitors. There's a lot to take on initially, and that's why I highly recommend speaking to a barrister about how to go about preparing for that, so that it's not all too much when you start off.
I think certainly I agree with everything Daniel said. That's absolutely true. And particularly this, we have an expression called the hospital hand pass, which is a brief that comes to you at the 11th hour that's usually riddled with problems, and you've just got to carry it and take it on and do the best you can with it. It is certainly not the case that all of us are parents, but many of us are parents. And as women, we also tend to have a significant proportion of parenting responsibilities. And a challenge, a real challenge, I think, is making sure that you're doing what you need to do at home, with making sure that you're fulfilling your professional responsibilities, and finding time to do what I need to do on both of those fronts, including looking after myself. And Daniel mentioned, he just, touched on the aspects of the bar that can be quite challenging from a mental health perspective as well. Just the adrenaline and its peaks and troughs, and trying to keep that all sailing smoothly is a huge challenge. I wouldn't trade it for anything. I think this is the best job in the world, but it's something that we continue to work on, and that I think that I'm finding new solutions for every day. Some days more successfully than others.
I think it's an immense privilege to be someone's legal representative, as we are as a barrister, but it's also a huge responsibility. So whatever area of law and whatever jurisdiction you're practicing in, be it criminal or civil or whatever, really the dispute or whatever's happened has been tried to be reconciled and resolved and sorted out, and it can't be, and it comes down to us. So it's really, as a barrister, I find that very challenging, in that we are the final step before usually a judge will decide the matter finally. And that might be taking away someone's liberty. It might be determining that our client owes a lot of money or wins a lot of money. But we are the final step in that process. So I think, as I mentioned, it's both a privilege and a responsibility, but it's those sort of things that contribute to the stress of the job that we all need to try and manage. And as someone who's recently lost a case, I mean, losing's terrible. Only thing, worse or better on the other end of the spectrum is winning. Winning's pretty good, but losing really hurts. So you've got to deal with those things.